Hello, YouTube. So this is going to be a giant video showcasing the project that I've been working on that some of you have seen on this channel, um, which is a enormous uh, custom homebrew system on Foundry VTT, which is an automated game system that basically plays and runs like a video game almost, where you can play something very similar, resembling a Fire Emblem rule set uh, that is kind of spliced together with some D&D tabletop RPG elements as well. And as you can sort of see here, these are all the enemies that I've designed so far for the game. Um, a lot of this sort of sprite work is ripped from Fire Emblem Universe's giant asset repository, but then, you know, sort of edited together by me to create something more of a coherent visual style. But anyway, that's beside the point. So the purpose of this video is to just showcase some of the larger systems and ways to build out an encounter, how some characters work, how do stats work. I'll talk a lot about, just giving a big general impression of the game. This doesn't cover all the systems, actually, but I think it does cover some of the major ones. There are some things that you won't be seeing, such as the game's sort of crafting, downtime, and social systems, such as support between units, um, which do exist, but I think I'll save that for another time because this video is already going to be pretty long as it is. Hopefully, this gets people excited and interested in following this game further because I have put ungodly amount of, you know, hours into this, as you guys will see. Um, and yeah, hopefully you enjoy. All right, so now we're going to be looking at how to make an actor, or what constitutes an actor um, in Emblem RPG. So going through the whole process, let's say you want to make whether a player character or an enemy character like these guys over here. Um, we'll start out just by clicking create actor, and there are going to be several types, right? So a convoy actor is the unit that's going to store your party, you know, these people right over there. Uh, Same way that it works in Fire Emblem, the convoy is their shared inventory space, so we're not going to make that. An object, the way that the system works is it uses actor type documents for things like chests or destructible walls or um, like uh, armaments on the battlefield, like the ballista uh, type thing in Fire Emblem. That's an object actor, and vendors, of course, are merchants. So those three things are non-combat type documents, and character is the one that we want to um, make here. A character is all of these little dudes down here, right? These are all characters. So we're gonna give them a name. Let's just make Anna, you know, our lovely redhead uh, from the main series. So, all right, this is the character sheet, and I'll run down, more or less everything over here. So you can see their stats all on the left here. These are the game stats. When you click the Show Growths button, it flips over to the growth rates of that unit. So everything that's in red right now um, are the stats that can roll to level up, right, every time the character uh, gains a level. So the first thing that you always want to do when you make an actor uh, in Emblem RPG, you're going to want to just pick their class because that's the only way that all this stuff gets, automatically filled out. Um, right, so to pick class, we just click this search button over here, and it'll bring up um, all the different classes that are part of the game's content pack. And so far, what has been fleshed out are all the novice classes. Think these are like your trainee classes in, um, Sacred Stones, right? Um, these guys can branch out into different intermediate classes over here, which can then branch further into their advanced classes, which I have not made yet. So there are no advanced classes in the game yet, but so far, all of these guys are completed, right? So let's quickly talk about that. Um, by clicking on any one of these classes here, it'll bring up the information about that class. So let's pick fighter, right? And I'll bring up the class page for fighters. Um, so you get your basic description, your proficiencies. So what weapon types is this class capable of using, right? The Fire Emblem veterans, this should all be fairly familiar, right? So E rank in brawling weapons, a D rank in your heavy weapons, um, and in this game, heavy weapons don't just include axes; they include like hammers and maces and whatnot. Um, and so all the weapon types, brawling, blade, your pole arms, heavy weapons, bow weapons, covert weapons, which means like throwing knives, shuriken, things of that nature. Um, your elemental spells, holy spells, uh, occult or like dark spells, and arcane spells. Uh, so those are all the different like weapon and magical proficiencies a unit might have. Unlike standard Fire Emblem, this also has armor in it. So the three tiers of armor, right? Light, medium, and heavy for the fighter unit. In this case, a fighter would have light armor. And then these two proficiencies designate whether or not this unit's capable of mounting, right? Riding a horse or flying, like mounting a Pegasus or whatnot. Um, so in this case, fighter, pretty straightforward, light armor, and these two weapon proficiencies. Um, the unit types, right? So a unit might have a specific kind of category, which is relevant in terms of a bunch of different gameplay mechanics. Of course, you guys would know the most notable one being effective damage. So if there's a weapon or a spell that's effective against, let's say, um, an undead type right here, right? Then it would do a lot more damage to that unit. So in this case, these are all player classes right here. Um, so the unit type of all of these is going to be infantry, right? An on foot humanoid being. Um, yes, and then the skills down here, since this is intended to be a tabletop role playing experience, right? You do have skill checks. And the way skill checks in this system works is it's a flat d20 um, modified by whatever bonus die the skill grants. So a d6 in athletics means when rolling athletics, the unit would roll um, a d20 and then another d6, right, from this skill. Um, and yada yada yada. Right, that's the overview page. Stats page, right? You see that uh, the base stats of the fighter are all up here. So just by adopting this class, Anna would have all of these stats as her baseline. Um, Might is essentially just strength, right? It's going to affect your melee attacks, your physical damage, how much equipment weight you can bear, and also every point of might also increases the character's HP. Um, so it's not as simple as the stat from Fire Emblem where it only modifies the damage. It has sort of several things attached to it. Agility, this affects your evasion score. and your speed both pretty much do what they sound like, right? Evasion is how dodgy the character is, and speed works the same way as Fire Emblem, right? It determines whether or not the unit can double or is being doubled. Technique is your accuracy. So with 4 points in technique, it means that the character has +4 to their attack roll um, whenever they make any kind of attack. Wit is for magic damage, spell proficiency, basically, um, for hostile magic. And wit also is not completely useless for a melee unit because the higher their wit, it also affects their chance to critically hit. And then lastly, charm, right over here, CHA. That is going to affect mostly for support units. It affects how much they can heal, and there's also a bunch of other spells and abilities that a support unit would call on their charm for. Um, but also it also for every unit it affects their chance to negate being critically hit. Right, so the higher your charm, the less likely an enemy can crit you. Uh, Kind of takes on the role of luck, I suppose, from Fire Emblem. HP is self-explanatory. When this hits 0, the unit dies. STN, this stands for stance, and it's going to be, I think, the most unique element of this system in contrast to standard Fire Emblem. So that is their second bar, as you can see below each unit. Um, and if you guys have played a lot of other tactical games, it's a very similar mechanic where they have some kind of, poise uh, that can be depleted when they're attacked. And when this value is diminished completely, they're left in a very vulnerable position and they lose their action for a turn. So, whoops. Uh, Playing around an enemy's stance, breaking enemy stance while preserving your unit's own stance is a pretty significant feature. As you'll see when we do the gameplay demo. Defense and resistance, these work the exact same way as Fire Emblem. If you've played Fire Emblem, you know how these work, right? They're 1-to-1. Um, the major difference being in this game, the growth rates for these two stats are pretty suppressed. As you can see, the fighter only has 10 points of growth rates in defense and 5 in resistance. The reason for that being that this game has armor, right? Uh, and armor is what provides you with a more baseline right chunk of your defense and resistance. Um, and when a character's stance is broken, that's why again that mechanic is important. They lose their bonus to defense and resistance from their armor, so that's what makes them very vulnerable when their stance is broken. Evasion, um, this is essentially just the hit DC that an enemy has to beat to actually hit the target. So with an evasion of 7, this is functionally the same as the armor class from D&D 5th edition. Um, it means that, to hit Anna, if she has an evasion of 7, the opponent has to roll higher than a 7. Um, and this, of course, is influenced by agility as well. So every 2 points of agility grants another point in evasion. So this wouldn't be this is just the baseline from the class. It will be modified further from other things. Move, uh, self-explanatory. It's how many tiles that the unit can move per turn. BLD or build. This is the same way that um, that stat works in Fire Emblem. In the games that have it, it's how much equipment load a unit can bear before they start to suffer penalties to their agility, right? So with 8 build, the fighter can wear equipment up to that weight, and then every point beyond that will penalize the agility stat, which in turn penalizes speed and evasion. Um, Accuracy. Functionally, this is just a your hit chance which is derived from technique. Every 1 point in technique provides a point in accuracy. The reason for this being separated is that technique, might be a kind of baseline for the character, and accuracy is what different weapons will influence without touching the character's base stat. And then finally, crit, self-explanatory. It's your chance to critically hit, right? So that is a stat that usually will be 0 as a base stat for a class because that usually comes from your weapons as well as your character's wit. Stat growths. This is, you know, something that should be familiar for Fire Emblem veterans. It's whenever unit levels, they will roll a d100 for each stat, and if they fall within that percentile, right, then that stat will increase. So 35% chance on every level to gain in might, 20% for agility, 20% for technique. Again, these are just baselines um, from the class. If you want the unit themselves to have higher growth rates, um, just due to however you want to design that character, then that can be edited by going to the growths, right? The stats on the character sheet and just right clicking it and setting a modifier to their growth rate. And stat limits. These are also self explanatory. It's the maximum that the character stat can be pre modifier. So let's say that Anna has a might of 5, right? And her stat limit, based on her class as a fighter, is 11. That means that every time she levels up, uh, she will increase in might as long as she rolls it, but it will not increase past a base value of 11. She might go higher than 11 from equipment or from some kind of magical effect, but her own personal might will never be higher than 11. Um, yes. Then let's go to the features tab just to see how every class has their own list of unlockable features that they get at certain level thresholds. So you can see the fighter here, just to click some of these abilities, right? At level 1, a fighter chooses between Threaten, which is a taunt ability, right? You can taunt enemy units to force them to attack the unit taunting them. Or Victory Rush, a passive ability that heals her whenever she scores a kill, right? So depending on how you want to build your unit or how you envision that character, you can choose different abilities. Um, at a baseline, all of these sorts of novice classes are very rudimentary. So if you take a look at, let's say, I think Initiate is the most complicated one. The Mage starting class, right? You can see their features, right? They have a lot of spells that they can choose between to unlock as they level up. Um, and in the content pack that I made, all of these spells actually have independent like animations dividing between hits and critical hits. So yeah, just to show that off a little bit. Um, right, so the fighter's abilities, shove, self-explanatory. You shove a unit, right? Um, People who have played Fire Emblem ROM hacks, where this is a staple, you'll recognize this right away. Uh, and then weapon arts, let's talk about that for a second, and bonus actions, since these are pretty unique to the system. Weapon arts work the same way as they do in Three Houses, where they consume some durability amount from your weapon. It's indicated by the cost. And then they enhance an attack however it's described. So +4 damage, right? +4 attack, that's what that means, and +2 break damage. Break damage is what the weapon will deal against a person's stance. So that's again that yellow bar over there. So this weapon art would, you know, really enhance an attack's ability to break stance if that's what's needed. And attacking with this weapon prevents you from making extra attacks. That's the lingo franca of this game system for doubling and tripling and whatnot. Um, So if you use this weapon art, you'll get that bonus, but you won't double even if you can double, is essentially what that says. Irrelevant, of course, if the unit can't double in the first place. So, yes. Okay, second wind. This is a bonus action. A bonus action, similar to 5e, right, is something that the unit can do that is free and it doesn't use up their turn. Units get one bonus action per turn. Um, and in this case, second wind, it's limited to one use per map, right? The refreshes indicator down here signals that this ability can be, um, you know, it'll refresh itself whenever a new map begins. So you always get that back. And it's a self heal. So a fighter at level 5 would choose between whether or not they want more combat capability by taking that weapon art, or they want more survivability by taking second wind. Right? Cool. And over here in promotions, you can see this is what the unit promotes into uh, as an intermediate class when they reach 5th level. And the way promotions work, similar to Fire Emblem, is they will have to consume some kind of promotion item right here, right? So whatever they need to use to promote, the game master can set by dragging that item over here. So in this case, let's go here and say, right, consumables, promoters, right, and let's say the honor seal is what they would use to activate and promote into a warrior class at 5th level. If you want to lock that class behind certain proficiency ranks, right? And say, well, a fighter can't be a swordsman unless they have some experience in swords. You would say, right, I'm going to set that to um, a certain rank that they have to achieve before that promote option becomes unlocked. Um, and the way that a unit would gain uh, points towards advancing the rank in a proficiency is by using that weapon. And so, how can a unit gain proficiency in a weapon if they can't use it? Right. That is part of a training mechanic that is part of the game system. Um, so I'm not going to go over that in this video, but during downtime, uh, units have the chance to interact with one another actually and train each other in certain skills that they have. Um, and it's a process that takes some time, so it's not a one and done kind of thing. But yeah, similar to kind of three houses, units can kind of instruct each other to increase their skills, which can, um, determine what class you want them to get into. All right, so that's all that. That's the how to look at the class page over here. And going back to creating Anna, oops, um, let's go ahead and just give her that warrior class, right? So you can see what happened, or the fighter class, I mean. Confirm, and boom, it will set all that stuff up. So now she has a d6 in her athletics, right? D4 in handicraft, D4 in command, and all these skill checks are used for a variety of gameplay mechanisms um, that I don't want to get into too much right now. But suffice it to say that these are all fairly useful and important in the game. Um, right, so that's all done. And oh yeah, features. So we saw before that she's supposed to have a feature at level 1. So going to her class page now, you'll see that since she's level 1, this button will unlock itself and say choose feature. Do I want her to have threaten or victory rush, right? Just to show that off, we can say, all right, well, I want Anna to be our tank in the party, let's say. So I'm going to give her a threaten so that she can taunt enemies towards herself, right? I'll just confirm that. And that should uh, come up. Right, boom, yep, as one of her abilities, threaten. Um, cool. And that's all done. So now let's talk about the character designer that's built into the system. So we want to have Anna to have a sprite and an avatar like all these lovely people down here. So how do we do that? We're just going to click on her profile avatar, and that's going to bring up the actor control panel, right? So first things first, actually, um, all of this stuff is how you customize the actor token. So actor type, this is important to designate first as well. What faction do they belong to, right? So are they a lord, which means you guys know what lords are. A lord from Fire Emblem, the main character of the party. Also, yeah, if you're playing this for the role playing side of things, the lord would be what your player occupies the first person of, right? So you're like for example, my players in the campaign that I'm running with them in playing the system, Edelweiss right here, he's a lord. Hugo is a lord. So my characters would play Edelweiss or Hugo, and then they would have followers, these guys down here, um, who they also control in gameplay, but not necessarily in role playing. Um, and so, yeah, with Anna, let's say that just to show off the different things, if you make her a retainer, right, you'll see that her border changes to this type, which designates her as a retainer. And Lord will have this more fanciful background right here. Um, Faction name and icon, these are just sort of there for um, roleplay purposes. You don't necessarily need them to have anything written there. Faction color, this will change the background image of her avatar. It'll also show up in several other places. So whatever color you want to associate with the character, basically. Anna, we know, likes the color red, so we'll give her that red color. Then owners down here, um, whatever player you want to be the owner of this character, if you want a player to own them at all, right, you would just pop them up and boom, that whatever is lit up is the owner of Anna. So let's give her to the playtester as the owner. Um, right. So back to uh, giving her an appearance. Um, we looking at the prototype token settings, right? Um, the unit can either be large, in which case they occupy a 2x2 dimensionality, which looks like this big guy right here, right? This guy is a 2x2 large unit, um, or they can be 1x1. And the game supports either 1x1 or 2x2 and nothing else. So I honestly don't think you need anything more. Yeah. So Anna, since she's a regular NPC, we'll just make her 1x1, and leave all this stuff the same. Um, this stuff down here can give the token some visual effects, like this ghost monster right here, right? They have a pulsating glow effect that is set up in this panel down here. Play with this if you want to for a character, but it's really, as you can see, I don't really mess around with it too much because I think the sprite is self-sufficient, but it's there in case you want a unit to look a certain interesting kind of way. Um, yeah, so opening up her editor. So the Token Studio is an in-system application for pixel art editing and designing Fire Emblem sprites. Um, so let's get rid of this default layer first and start to build out our character. So the simplest way to do this is to just pick one of these sprite presets, right? And this comes from the Fire Emblem character creator that other people have. I forget the names of the original creators, but there is a Java application Fire Emblem character creator that is out there online. I simply ported a lot of its functionalities into Foundry. Um, so let's go back to Anna. Let's say Anna, we give her, since she's a fighter, right? So we'll want her to be wielding an axe, um, just to represent that. And let's see, don't really see any good options. So let's actually take this opportunity to show off how we can actually design an avatar um, from scratch almost. So let's take Lynn, or actually let's take the other Lynn. Let's take da, 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 uh, this fighter right there. Um, and let's say we take it's another uh, uh looks a bit more like what we're looking for. Yeah, maybe her. Yeah, right. And we can kind of combine these three. So let's flip this one first of all. Here we go. Yeah, and we can kind of try to combine these three into our own custom sprite using this editor. Um, so let's first of all color some of this stuff in. So we can choose a palette, right? Anna, let's give her that reddish hair, skin tone. Yeah, let's just use that. Palette 5, that's the trim. So let's give her like a white trim. I think Anna's color scheme is usually like white on red. So, yep, that kind of looks good, right? All right, and then we can copy that palette to the other tokens there. Boom. Cool. So now what we can do is let's try to figure out how to put this all together. So I'm going to want the axe from him, the ponytail from her, and the general body of the rogue character. All right, so how do we really go and do all that? So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to take her ponytail, select it, I'm going to move it. Yeah, I will actually just move it over there for now. And go here. And I don't think I need anything else from her, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And yeah, that looks good. So now she has a ponytail. And now to cut off the axe from him, give it to her. Right. Oops, not wrong layer. Oops. Nope, I need to. Get rid of him. Move this down and adjust it. this looks about right. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to move this a bit more. Mhm. Cool. And then we can kind of flatten this and edit it a bit further. So, and notice once we flattened the image, now the colored linkage is gone, and the recolor becomes, a single color to another single color in case that is something you want to do. But in this case, won't be necessary. We're just going to go in here and try to make this look a little nicer, right? I'm not going to get too detailed just for the sake of this showcase, though. And let's make that armband match her color scheme. There we go. And maybe we try to thin out this arm just slightly so it looks a bit less jarring. Yeah, that's kind of good enough. We can kind of leave it at there. Right, cool. Yeah, so again, just for the sake of the demo, I'm not going to get too detailed into making this custom avatar. Um, but I'm going to show how to actually position this within this field because these scan lines that I've enabled up here, what these show is actually the token's real position within, just to move this aside, within the bounding box of a square tile, right? So by clicking this preview token at map scale button, it'll enlarge the visual. And whatever you see here in the square is the actual reflection of what the size of the token will look like when it's actually put onto a map. So at this scale right here, 1x, with just this one grid line above this red zone right here, um, that red zone represents how much of the token square the HP and the stance bar take up. So what we see Anna here right here is basically going to be the size that this mage unit down here uh, will look like, right? More or less, she'll be about the same size. Um, and if for whatever reason you want to make Anna bigger, right? You want to enlarge her, you can go in over here to where it says default tokens and you see this token scale. Um, and you can actually move the slider a bit. Let's 10%, and you'll see in real time this will adjust itself as well. So let's make her even bigger, let's say, right? So Anna's large at this point, and you move her in this way. Now the token will be a lot bigger, like almost taking up the whole height of it. And Anna, if you were to put that token on the map, let's just do it just so we can see it. We'll save this, right? Oh, uh, I think I might have to refresh the page because Foundry, yeah, refresh because Foundry disconnected me for some reason. All right, no issue. I will just have to save this to a JSON, so Anna token precision. Um, this will save a JSON containing the data of your edits to the world folder of your Foundry data folder. Uh, oh, rubbish. Well, this is a problem. All right, well, let's just see what happens when I close this. Okay, well, this persisted. Okay, so if I reload, it should be fine. Yeah, I don't know why Foundry does this sometimes. It just chooses to disconnect you. It's very annoying. Um, let's hope that this persisted. Okay, great. It did persist. All right, back on track. So yeah, just to show you the scale, right? We'll save Anna. And then if I drag her now next to Maribel, right here, right, you'll see that she's noticeably bigger. And then if I go back here, readjust her scale so that it's back to being exactly at 1, right? Move her so that she's in alignment. I save it again. Boom. Now, right, her size is back to normal. I don't know why her height didn't readjust there. Maybe I have to reload for that to take effect. But yeah, you guys get the point. Cool. So with her sprite kind of done now, I'll show one more thing about, let's say you want to reuse this sprite that you've just made, and you want it to be linked up to the colors again. Like, so you don't have, you can recolor it in a more, templatey, quick way. You can actually re-import this file as a custom template. So to do that, right, you would just go to import um, and import from layers down here. This actually lets you, you click this button, right? I'm going to make this a permanent import to save this template. You press that button, it brings you to this menu right here. And this is a nifty way for you to basically create a dynamic template from a sprite and transport it directly into save it as a template in the editor. And you can actually do this as well by copying and pasting a token from any kind of image editor that you might have. So like if you have Fire Emblem sprites 64 by 64 on hand, and you want to import them into this editor in this way, you can actually just copy and paste from the computer clipboard the token into this, and it will appear here as well. So just to show what I'm talking about here, right? I can pull up, I'm going to pull this up real quick right now, um, from my own system files, real quick. Uh, tokens. All right. Cool. Yeah. I'm going to copy and paste this over. Boom. Right. So I just grabbed that token from just my computer files. And I can import this image now as a template that I can reuse in case I wanted to make a token with this sprite in the future, but I want to recolor it, right? So I'm going to show you what I mean here. So going to Anna, right? I want to match her skin tones to the skin palette. So I'm going to go from light to darks. So skin, that's the lightest shade. This one's the second lightest. This one's the third lightest. This one's kind of the fourth. Yeah, and I think that's all her skin tones. For her hair, I'm going to go here, here, and here. For this purple outline, I'm going to put that up here in the outline box. For this white cloak, let's say that's cloth. So I'll put that over there. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. For this red on her, let's say that's the leather. And it doesn't actually really matter like which is which. Um, these names are just sort of for convention's sake. The metal of the axe up here, right? We can actually put here, here, and here. The wood of the axe, we can make that a wildcard palette. Here, here, and here. All right, cool. And then that's all the tones completed. I'm not going to do this one because I already have this template in my system. But yeah, just to show that you can just kind of keep going with this, right? And import uh, as many as you want into the system. Right, so get rid of that. Now at the top, you'll see 20 out of 20 placed. That means all tones on the sprite has been now assigned to a dynamic color swatch that will be imported into the system. So I'm going to click import, and we're going to name it. So custom Anna Axe, right? Import. Done. So now you'll see that the layer has been relinked, right? And I'm going to turn off this preview for a moment. So we can look back at the sprite, and now it can be recolored, right? So let's say I don't like the fact that this axe looks kind of dull, right? I want it to be brighter. I can now go back here and select a new palette for that object, right? So you'll see now the dagger and the axe here, they are going to be recolored according to whatever you pick. So I want the axe to be purple, now it's purple. Right, there we go. Yeah, and let's say I think she's fine as she is, but yeah, if you wanted to, right, you can, for example, you open her hair palette, right? You can now change that as well because now all of the color tones have been linked up. So just going back here, we'll do that. All right, cool. And just to make sure that, yeah, we want to orient the token within the bounding box in the specific way because that's how they will be displayed on the actual canvas when you put them onto the map. Right, so now let's work on her avatar. So we'll get rid of this default, we'll get rid of these scan lines. And if you've ever used the Fire Emblem character creator app before, this is should be a very recognizable process, right? You pick a face, you pick hair, you color them in. So let's look for Anna. That's Anna's face. Let's give her, something that matches that. Maybe this. Well, right, that's a little bit brutish. Let's see about, yeah, maybe this one. This one looks good. Again, I'm not gonna get too detailed just because we're trying to demo it here, and I think Anna has a hairstyle. There you go, right? And to color all this stuff in, actually, we can just sort of copy and paste over from the tones on the actual sprite onto the layers here, actually. So if we do here, we do there, now her hair's pink, we copy her skin tone over, boom, and boom. Let's say, oh, this tone doesn't have a comparison, so let's just pick one, something darker, like that, and we'll copy that over to the other one as well. There we go. Going onto that layer, we can copy the color of the metal. Actually, I think that should be red. We can copy the white of her cloak, right? And yeah, over here. Yeah, and now we have a somewhat visual match between the two. And let's also just let's give her pink eyes. Or red eyes. Yeah, something like that, right? The visual match is now a little bit more elegant. And if you want to save this work, you want to save these layers, you just save it as a JSON into your world folder by clicking that button. And the save button over here will actually set the image to the actor itself. So I press save, and now you can see, right, Anna has been created. And let's say I want to get rid of this gap down here because I just don't like it, right? I can drag this image down, oops, by holding down the Alt key, and I can reposition it within the bounding box of the frame. Save it again. And now, yeah, you see she has closed that gap because I've dragged down the image a bit. Right. Save that again just for uh, safety's sake. And now that's done now, right? So her, oops, yeah. I think if I close that and reopen it, should be there. Yep. I don't know why that reset itself. All right, maybe I have to refresh the page just so that Foundry gets the memo. It's okay, Anna. Yep. Okay, cool. And if I go down here, yep, right. Her tethering to the bottom that I set the token sprite to has been achieved, and now she's about the same height, right, as any other token. Cool, that's done. And now, let's just heal her back up. That is more or less it for how to get a unit ready. Some other things to take note of is that if you want to have a kind of deeper customization, let's say you want to give her a new sprite based on her class. So this is how you can set promotion paths for a unit by say like, you know, this is the sprite that she has by default, right, as this fighter. But let's say you want to give her um, a new sprite that she gets whenever she promotes into a warrior, right? You would press that button, class name, warrior, right? Add it, and now as a whole new separate tab that comes up, a bunch of different tokens can be established for what she'll look like when she advances into a warrior. I'm not going to do that for her just because that would be a lot of work for this demo. Um, but, right, let's, just to show what the units that have this so far, you can see, right, Cade win over here. This is one of my player characters in the campaign that I'm running. So if I open him up, you'll actually see that he has custom sprites set for a variety of classes. So his default class is an acolyte. He has that, standard Fire Emblem priest sprite. As a Dawn Rider, right, his sprite will change into this guy right here, right? Um, and then as a herald, which is kind of like a bishop, right, he will have a more advanced class look to him if he becomes this class. Um, and all the stuff down here, right? This is also a high amount of effort, I would say, but it's there in case you want to do it. I have done it for a lot of these units, um, where you can give them conditional tokens. So the game system will actually automatically switch the sprite that's displayed when those conditions are met. So for instance, right, fires when on evade, that means that whenever Cadwin dodges an attack, the sprite will automatically change into this, and then change back when he finishes dodging. And that can give visually, it'll appear like, you know, an actual dodge animation, or it'll give that kind of impression. Um, Same thing for when he's attacking with a spell, right? He'll transition immediately to this and flip back when he's not casting, or same thing when he's critting, like that, right? So that's all there. You would apply them the kind of same way that you applied the default token, and it's takes some figuring out. But if you set this all up, it does look pretty nice. and you can see it in action later on in the gameplay demo. Um, and maybe the last thing to talk about when it comes to customizing the token um, would be the audio settings, right? So over here, you can go here and designate uh, if you want her to have sound files. So what that means is when you select one of these tokens in gameplay, they'll have a voice line, right? So let's just say, for example, um, well, I'll start a combat, a faux combat, just so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm gonna disable all the stuff down here. Right. So cool. Combat started. Um, and now if I press spacebar over any of these one units, they will be able to act. And then
Let the wind lead.
there, right? That voice line that you heard, that happens when you select a token. That's something that can be set in that menu, right? So all of these tokens here have a dialogue. Um,
My existence is of little consequence.
as you can see, right? Maribel,
Humbly awaiting your command.
stuff like that. Um, and those voice lines can actually occur in several areas. So the most common ones are when they crit and when you select them, right, to move them around. But they can also play after their level ups, when they're injured, when they die, um, and I think that's it. I might be forgetting one or two things, but suffice it to say, right, that can all be set over here by choosing the voice path. And all the files that you want to be in that path would be put up over here. I'll go into more detail about this some other time. Um, but yeah, this is just a demo of what's possible in the game system so far. In this AI tab, this is only relevant for enemy units. So since Anna is supposed to be a lord or a player character, this is obviously disabled. But yeah, that would be this would be for how you want to set up how enemies move if the enemy AI is enabled during combat. Okay. Now we can talk about how to now I will showcase the terrain builder, which lets you design the maps as such, which includes elevation mapping for these various tiles, setting which tiles are occlusions, such as these crosshatch ones, um, creating hazard terrains, like these piles of slime right here. As you can see, these yellow lines indicate they are difficult terrain. They cost extra movement to go through if you're on foot or you're a ground unit. Um, they reduce the evasion of a unit that's standing on it, defense, resistance, as well as deal damage every turn that you remain on it. You can also set it so that these squares um, ignore certain enemy types. So, for instance, all of these undead units right here, they are immune to their own slime. These hazard tiles only affect the player. Um, yeah. So, switching over to a blank map. Um, going back to here. So, as you can see, none of the terrain map has been drawn, and we will do that now. So right here, that button, the terrain builder, opens up this app, and simply dragging the mouse across the map will allow you to select tiles. Um, So first of all, it's helpful to let's get this grid visible. And we can start by just sort of thinking about what's the ground, right? And in this case, that's going to be um, this patch of road, and all the walls up there will obviously consider to be elevated squares. Um, and that's going to be important because that tells us, what tiles are inaccessible by your ground units. Okay, so let's start by just going right here, right? This bridge across um, the gate of this castle area. We can just grab all of that, and holding down the control key, oh no, the alt key, you see the green indicates you want to include that selection um, together with this selection. So let's grab all of this, and go ahead and cut across here, cut across here. Um, that one as well. We're going to say all of this is the same elevation, right? Boom, boom, boom. Grab this stuff. Right. And you don't have to get it all perfect because you can um, adjust later on. But let's say like I've got all the outer walls basically of this fortress, and I'm thinking they're probably going to be all the same height. So I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to come back in here where it says create zone. I can type in the name. I'm going to say castle walls. Outline yellow, that's fine. Elevation, that's going to be the ticket here. How high are these walls relative to the ground, right? So the ground, which was we earlier decided was going to be this patch of road, 0 elevation, that's fine. So if the walls are going to be higher than that, let's say they're 5, right? An elevation of 5. And that number also gives us a gameplay kind of um, construct as well, because the higher the elevation is, the more difficult it might be for a ground unit to climb up, right, to that wall if they so choose to. We can talk about that more in a bit, but for now, let's just figure out the zone. Entry skill. So, what skill check can the actor use to cross over into that zone? In this case, climbing a wall. Let's just say that's athletics, right? And so the DC, if we leave this at 0, then it'll automatically calculate a difficulty class based on the elevation. And that's usually going to be 5 multiplied by um, the elevation of the entry square, or the difference between the elevation of the entry square and the elevation of the zone that the unit wants to cross into. So with an elevation of 5, for instance, if a unit tried to reach this wall area from any ground tile, meaning an elevation of 0, then that difficulty class is going to be 25. Effectively impossible unless they're quite skilled um, at climbing or at athletics. All right, so now that we all got that, we'll come down here. We'll just click Save to Squares. Or sorry, no, Create Elevation, Create Zone, and boom, it'll be done. Right, so now I can unselect safely, and you'll see that the elevation on these walls have been adjusted now, right? The um, dashed lines indicate this tile is now considered part of that zone. And if you want to adjust that zone, right, all you have to do, you can go back into let's say you decide, for instance, that you don't want this wall over here to be 5th level elevation, or you want to take off a square from it, so you can, just let's go to that square and come to here. You just click unlink from selection, and boom, it'll no longer be part of that zone. Or if you want to add it back in, click it, click this plus button, and it'll be rejoined to that zone. Right. So let's just now kind of do the rest. This wall right here, we can kind of visually see, based on this map image, is a little bit higher than this bridge here. So we can come across here, right, whoops, and we can grab that, give that a name. Let's say level 7 or elevation 7. Right? Just so I don't have to be too creative with these names. How do I want to reach it? Athletics again, create from zone. Done. All right. Now maybe I can think about, okay, what else do I want to be elevation 7? Just judging by the what I see on the map here. Probably this stuff right here. Right? Da 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 da. Grab all that. And unfortunately, just the necessities of having a square kind of grid map as the Fire Emblem games are, um, clashing with, visually this diagonal kind of rooftop over here. If we were to, for instance, take out this square, then units have no way of crossing between these two squares right here. So just as a matter of necessity, we'll say that, we can include this square as the path that they could walk if they were on top of this tower over here. And that if they were standing on this square right here, they would just be underneath this rooftop, let's say. Right? So we can add that, grab these, and say, okay, we also want that to be elevation 7. Maybe what else? Maybe these battlements up over here. Right? They seem to be higher as well than the level 5 wall that we designated. So we can grab that. We'll say that's also level 7. Yeah, looks good. And let's say that we want it to be possible for a character to, let's say, climb up onto these shingles roofs over here, and then use as an access point to reach these walls up here, right? We can do that by just grabbing them. Let's say let's do all of these tiles. Let's say that's possible to do. Yes, these rooftop tiles. Grab all of these here. And we'll say these are shingles roofs. Shingled roofs. Outline red is fine. Elevation. How high are these structures? Let's say 3. Again, let's do both this time. Athletics or finesse to climb up those roofs and create the zone. Boom. So now, right, let's looking at this map, when the player presses a hotkey that's rebindable in the game settings, by default it's the E key, all of this will come up as a display. They'll be able to see the elevation of different zones of the map, and they might think, all right, if I want to get a unit up here, up along these roofs, right, the way I can do that is either, have them come all the way over here to these stairs and climb up and yada yada yada. Or they could just say, all right, I'm just going to have my character climb up on this roof so that they can climb up again to the higher walls, right? At a level 3, the difficulty class between 3 and the ground floor of 0 is going to be 3 times 5, which is 15. And then once they're on these roofs, they'll be on a level 3 square, which means climbing up to a level 5 square will be only difficulty class of 2 times 5, which is 10. So basically breaking that very difficult climb of going from 0 to 5 down into chunks, right? Should all make sense. Right, and then so if we want to apply that for all these other roofs over here as well, we want to say all these shingled roofs here are level 3. We can grab all of this, all these squares that represent that roof, and go ahead and just put all these at level 3. Conjoin them into that same zone. Let's do this one as well. Boom. And let's do these. And again, you can kind of readjust later based on your own judgment. So you don't have to commit to any decision, of course. All this in the drafting period of the map, you can kind of figure stuff out as you go. Right, cool. So now let's talk about obstacles. Right, you can see here the geography settings, the parameters of the map. Some squares, let's say, are just like squares that a ground unit won't be able to access for whatever reason. Right, let's say like these chimneys over here. Maybe a ground unit can't get up on that no matter what. We can just click the obstacles button and click save to square. Boom. And then that crosshatch will represent that this square is just basically totally blocked off. For a landed unit. A flying unit ignores obstacles. So obviously a flyer can just fly right past those chimneys. They don't care that they're there. We can do that to these two. And obstacles can be included in your zones as well, actually. So let's say this roof right here, right? We want this roof to be an obstacle, meaning you can't climb up on this. Maybe it's just too slanted, so even, a unit might fall right off. They tried, right? So we can set that as an obstacle. But now, importantly, if you want line of sight, let's say you put an archer right here, right? And you don't want that archer to be able to shoot through this barrier, this tower and this structure, because that would be absurd. Cough, cough. Fire Emblem. It's always very absurd that archers can shoot through walls. Then you have to actually put this structure as well as part of this elevated 3. Because an obstacle by itself will not block line of sight, but an elevated square will, because that tells the game that there is something there, right? That is, elevated off the ground. And so if we add these squares right here, this cross section of the obstacles, and we add that to our shingled roofs, elevated 3, then that will tell the game, hey, these squares are belonging to this elevated structure. There will be a blockage of line of sight from here to here, for example. All right, that's right. So what should be next? Let's say, yeah, just we can include more of this stuff, put that into our elevation 7, and then also make these obstacles. And yeah, let's say you don't want any player up on the roof of this main keep right here, right? You can grab all of that again. And declare all of this. Maybe we can put that as elevation 7 and also make it an obstacle. Done. Right, so I don't want to belabor the recreation of the entire map. So let's just get into another feature of this, which is transition squares, right? So these stairs right here, right? Let's say you want to have let's go ahead and put this as also elevation 3. Let's put these as 4. Right? In a sense, right, by climbing these stairs, the unit would be ascending from ground level to 3 to 4 to 5, right? Um, and if you want them to be able to do that or follow that kind of pathway, then you'll set transition squares. So in this case, for example, um, let's put that as a transition, horizontal left and right. Type restriction, that means um, maybe if you don't want, a cavalry unit, a horse to be able to go up these stairs, they have to be on foot. Then you can set it to cannot be mounted. Um, and of course, if for whatever reason a flying unit can't do that, you can do cannot be flying. Let's do can be mounted. So let's say these stairs are narrow, right? And a horse just won't be able to get up there. You can set it so that only an infantry unit can do that. And save that to the square. And that blue-green bidirectional line indicates a unit will be able to freely use this square to transition between the ground level and this level 3 square right here. And then we do the same thing here. Vertical up and down, type restriction can't be mounted, save to square. And if you want to make it so that this transition square, let's say for whatever reason it costs extra movement to be able to ascend these stairs, you can set a movement cost as well. So movement cost 2, and that will show up as difficult terrain costs movements to go up. Right, and we can do that for these squares as well. Done. And so now all this indicates is that the expected behavior, where, you just by judging from this map, you would expect that a unit needs to, move to here, 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 to go all the way up onto this outer wall up here. That will be pretty much set. However, if you want a unit not to be able to go from this square to this square directly, like they have to cross into the level 4 zone, then you just need to put a little thin wall right here, right? So we can go to the draw walls, don't block line of sight, block movement, and come across. Boom. And that's going to be a foundry wall done right there. Go back to the terrain tab. Right, you don't need a wall between 3 and 5 because just the sheer elevation difference between these two will tell the game that these two zones are blocked off from each other. But a unit can climb from 3 to 5, right? So if a unit was right here, theoretically they could spend their action to skip the stairs and climb directly onto the outer wall right here. All right, so that's movement transition squares. Then let's talk about teleport transition squares. So let's say you have some units that are starting out on this side of the map, right? This sort of outer area. And you want them to have a way to get into the main courtyard of this keep. And we look at the map, right? We can kind of see, just judging by the visuals alone, it seems like maybe this square and this square right here are doorways. So if a unit entered that square, perhaps that's how they can get into this building, cross over, and come out into the courtyard. To kind of simplify that and not get into the whole business of actually doing any interiors, right? We can have a unit simply teleport from this square to that square by setting these two up as paired. So this square right here and this square right here, we'll select them both. And let's go here and transition. We can now set this up as a teleport pair, right? Tag right here will just give you a letter or a number to indicate that these two squares are tethered together, right? So for simplicity's sake, we'll just say these two are tagged as A. Type restriction, again, if you don't want a flying unit to be able to cross between these two squares, then we can say like can't be flying, right? They have to be on the ground. Um, and if you do can't be mounted, then they also cannot be astride a horse or whatever. A Pegasus Knight or a Wyvern Knight will be counted as mounted, so just doing can't be mounted will say in order to go through this building, right, to teleport from this point to that point, they will have to be on the ground or dismounted. Um, that will be the setting. Activation cost. This just asks how are they going to go from here to here? Like, what will they need to be spending? Um, Standard action means crossing over will use their full turn. So the moment they cross over, the unit's turn will be ended. Bonus action means they can do that with only their bonus action. Their turn won't be used up. Um, and movement will just say, in order to do this, they have to spend a certain amount of um, their standard movement per turn. Right. So let's just say for this kind of traversal, they have to spend their entire standard action to go from these 2 points. So we have all this set up, and then we just click save the square, and boom, these two are now linked up. Let's say we want to do this as well. From here, let's say, seems like this is tied to that square. So if we say a unit that goes here can teleport to here, right? By, in the fiction, they're going through the interior structure. Transition, teleport pair, can be mounted, standard action, save it. Boom. So those pairs are now done. And the last thing now to cover about the terrain builder will be to set up like squares that have some kind of effect on them, right? So in the completed map of this, I designed an encounter where players are kind of trying to rout a bunch of undead that have come to occupy the place. Um, so sort of narratively speaking, I'm thinking that the whole place is covered in slime, right? Or in the kind of undead ichor that are constantly oozing out of their bodies as these foul abominations. So, scattered across this map, we might put those hazardous tiles um, that uh, introduce this kind of strategic element of positioning to the player units. So, how do we do that? Let's just put one of these tiles down right here, right? And I'll go through the whole steps from start to finish of how to do that. So going here, um, stats. First of all, okay, what does this slime do, right? We'll say that it reduces their evasion by 4 points. Uh, the, reduces their defense and resistance by 2 points. Um, And if these were positive numbers, those would give them a bonus to those stats instead. So instead of like a slime tile, maybe it's a fortified tile. Um, whatever you're thinking of for your own game. Um, cool. Oh, and one thing, if you ever click off from this tile, everything that you've been setting up here, evasion, move cost, the mechanics of the square, will be reset because the moment you click off into another square, the app will readjust itself, right? Because now things are editing that square instead of this one. So if you don't want it to happen accidentally, you can just select that square and press this lock button down right here, and boom, you won't click off of it. Right. It will say terrain selection is locked. Um, so that way you can edit this with the comfort and security, knowing that your progress won't get accidentally destroyed by clicking off. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we're trying to create this Icarus tile. So we're going to add an exception and say that undead type units, right, will be not affected by their own terrain square. And sync down here means they won't be affected by the stat modifiers, nor by the move cost, nor by the tile effect. Yeah. So now let's go ahead here. Move cost, we'll say that to move through that square, that ichor, is going to cost 2 points of movement. Mechanics. So here we can choose whether this square deals damage or heals a unit every turn. So here we'll just say does decay damage, so staying in it rots the character, and it'll deal 4 points of decay damage every turn a unit spends inside it. Right. Spawn unit is setting spawn points. We'll go over that later. But then, okay, so now we got damage setup, FX. Here you're gonna link an animation effect if you want there to be one. So in this case, we'll open up the boss loot animations. This is a different module, but if you have this, you can just look up Grease. Right? I think that JB2A is another animation pack. I think they have some assets for free, so if you don't want to, purchase it, you'll still have some recourse here. So copying that file path, putting it down there, and saving it. Boom. You'll see that the square now, right, it shows the animation that you designated it. You can adjust the visual of it if you please. So let's say we want to reduce that visual opacity by a little bit. Let's say we want to make that visually a bit bigger, right? Let's go. There we go. And that will be one way to adjust it. If you want that pool to be bigger, but you don't want to have 4 separate slime pools, right? Then you can, let's unselect that right there. Or actually, let's, lock that. Let's say you want to reuse this tile, right? You don't want to go through all these steps again. You want to have that tile be repeated without, manually doing by hand over and over and over again. What we just did to create this tile. You'll just click Save the Preset, right? And you can say I already have a couple presets here saved. Well, just to do it all from the start, we'll just say this is Icarus Pool, right? And we'll choose an icon just for our own purposes. Let's just do that one. Save as a preset. And that preset should now be saved. So now we can unselect that square and we can load it up, Icarus Pool, and it'll automatically apply all the settings that we had just done. And we just click Save It, and boom, we replicated that square from here to here. And going back to the making this slime pool bigger, right? We'll just click, we'll clear this out. We'll click Load from Preset, Icarus Pool. So now all 4 of those squares have these parameters set, and we will go in the visual effects. We'll just click Span Selection, save the square, and now the slime pool, right, goes across all 4 squares. Yep. Okay, now let's talk about spawn points, in case you want the map to have automated reinforcements. Right. So on this map that we're going to do the gameplay demo on, we're going to have 2 basic spawn points, which are going to be right up on this bridge. The idea is that more of those floating eyeball monsters come in to flank at the players, presumably, about a third of the way through the map, and continuously spawning in the back up here just to put pressure on the players to actually advance and move forward. Um, so just to do this simply, we can go up right here. Let's say that's going to be our first spawn point. And it's going to be in the mechanics tab. And we're going to create a spawn array. And the reason you can do multiple, right? Say if I do another one, is because in case you want the spawns to start changing, depending on the round, like maybe earlier on in the round, maybe from like rounds 4 to 8, it's going to spawn the weaker eyeball creatures. And then, let's say at 9 through the end of the map, 9 through 15, it'll start spawning the stronger gargoyle creature to really force the player into moving ahead, right? That's not going to be necessary, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to say, I'll just show how the spawn points are created. So I'll go here, and compendium, undead, rookie, right? These are the lower level monsters. And I need to input the monster's actor ID. I'm gonna copy it, and I'm just gonna paste it right there, and that'll designate as a spawn point. So if I save it to square, that little box up here will designate that this creature is gonna spawn on that square. And if I want to say, okay, it's going to keep spawning basically throughout, starting at round 4 and going all the way through the map. Cooldown rounds is, are there going to be rounds in between every single spawn from the start to the end, where the unit doesn't spawn, right? So if I make this number 1, then it'll spawn on every other round between 4 and 15, as opposed to every single round, which might be very intense on the player, frankly. The blockable boolean. So if you check this box, it means that as long as like a player is standing here or another unit is right there, then it'll block the spawn point. In this case, we're going to leave that off. And if that's off, that means that while this square is blocked, then the spawner will still spawn the token at an adjacent or nearby tile that incoming actor could feasibly enter, right? And if none such exists, then the spawn will actually just be prevented regardless. All right, spawn unit behavior, pursuant or roaming, or none. This is just whether you want the incoming spawn to chase the players, in which case you select pursuant. And if you want them to just kind of like roam around the map kind of randomly, then you would just pick roaming. In this case, they're going to be pursuant. So the reinforcements are going to come in and they're going to run in to attack the players or chase them down. Yep, and so we're going to say that as a spawn point, right? Watcher spawn. Save this as a preset. And we can copy that over here. So there were 2 spawn points. Load from preset. Oops. Watcher spawn. And let's say this one we chose the Infernal Watcher. So let's say this one we want a Dark Watcher, right? Which is a different kind of creature with a different attack, as you can see. Just copy and paste that instead. Save it to square. Let's say I want this round to be extended, so 4 to 14. They're just going to keep spawning until the player either loses the map or finishes it. Alright, so those 2 spawn points are now created. And just to show how that works, right, I'm going to do a test of the... I'm going to put Anna down on the map. Right, she's going to be over there. And we're going to create a combat. Ignore this warning for now. That just is saying that the designated objective doesn't exist, which makes sense because this is a cleared version of the completed map. Alright. So we're going to advance the phases. And nothing's going to happen because there are no creatures. And we're just going to keep going until we reach round 4, in which case you'll see those... Theoretically, should see them spawning in. Alright, round 4. So now at the end of this round, that's when they'll come in. Right? As you can see, the two of them ping themselves in. And now, if I end my turn as Anna, I turn on the enemy AI. These two should be pursuant, so they will fly towards Anna once I end my turn as Anna. There you go. I think I might have actually forgot to set this one to be pursuant. Let me see again. Okay, yeah. See, I forgot to set them to pursuant. That's why this one didn't fly over, but the bottom one did. And I also forgot to set a cooldown for this one. There we go. Alright. So the one on the bottom, right, I remember to set these, so it worked as expected. And this one, I had set 0 cooldown rounds, and the monster was not pursuant, so that's why it remained in place. And that's why another one spawned immediately in the round after. Yeah, so that's how to create spawn points. And that is basically it. All of that is how you get to the final product, which is the completed map that I have here. Oops, right. That's basically how I made all of this happen. Okay, now we're going to talk about the entire map as a whole, how to kind of inspect enemies, check their abilities, look at your own units, how a game master can set an objective to complete the map, and yeah, and then I'll play the map, and we'll see how it goes. I have played through this map before. I'm hoping that, you know, things go about as well as they did prior, but as the nature of this kind of game goes, you know, expect the unexpected, I guess, right? So first things first, there is no kind of built-in way to manage the starting locations of your units. That's just something that the game master will have to do on their own to decide how they want to handle things. I know in Fire Emblem, you know, each map has a kind of like limit of the amount of units that the players can use. In this case, that's all on the GM to decide, right? If you want the players to say you guys can only bring, you know, in this case, 8 units, right? Then you pick your 8, and then you pick their starting points. So on this map, the basic idea is this fortress has been occupied by like a legion of undead. And their master, let's say, is this fellow down here, this headless rider, Dullahan. A level 15 creature, fairly high stats, right? Fairly powerful equipment and a single spell. And depending on how threatening or how difficult we want to make this challenge, we can also even here set the Dullahan to have extra lives. So over here, right, you can see up to a maximum of 3 extra lives. These little hearts represent that whenever this enemy is defeated, it will instead restore itself to full HP and full stance and recover one of its extra, lose one of its extra lives. So with 3 extra lives, this would be a considerable challenge, especially if we put a time limit on the map. And just for the sake of this demo, we'll say it doesn't have any extra lives. We will leave one on this big guy over here. and then, yeah, the rest of the enemies will leave as is. Setting an objective on the map, right? Well, again, if we want the Dullahan to be the win condition, right? You defeat the enemy lord, this Dullahan, and the map will clear. The way we do that, we'll go to the combat tracker, we create a combat, and this will list out all the players and all the enemy NPCs that are going to be on the map. So we're going to set our objective by clicking this button. And I already have the objective set, but just to go over it, right? Round limit, that's how many rounds the players actually get. People, Fire Emblem veterans, you guys are familiar with this. After round 15, if the Dullahan still isn't dead, it's the map wipes and the players lose. So you can also have multiple objectives. The objective on this map simply is to defeat a target or targets. Only one target needs to be killed, and that's the Dullahan. So we just need to copy and paste over their ID, like that, and save it. And you'll see that it creates that little trophy icon next to the Dullahan. That means that this guy is a win condition unit. You have to kill this unit to beat the map. Alternatively, if we wanted to, we can have another objective, right? An alternative win condition. Let's say, survive. So instead of having a time limit, right? Instead of 15 rounds and the game is over, we say 15 turns, the players have to survive, and at that point they will beat the map, right? So then it's alternative. Either survive 15 rounds on this map, or kill the Dullahan. There are two win conditions. If we did it that way, perhaps then instead of the map orienting itself around the players working their way through this legion to get to the boss, maybe there's a bunch more spawn points, and the map becomes really about like trying to survive, or if they're capable of it, making a way to kill the boss, right? In this case, when you keep it simple, we're going to make this a kill the boss map, 15 rounds to do it, right? And that will be that. Some things to talk about in terms of just actually playing the game and analyzing the field. Holding down the Alt key, which is, again, rebindable in the settings, and hovering over any unit, like so, will display all their information, like the combat information of the unit. HP, stance, attack, the damage type of their attack, in which case this guy is using a poisonous spit attack, right? So it deals 5 decay damage, combined with, I believe this is adding on to their wit. Must be something else as well to get a total of 11 attack. Oh no, I remember what this is. Yeah, so it should be 5 attack plus 4 wit equals 9, and it's going to 11 actually because I have a difficulty setting turned on. So if you go into the game's core configurations, right, difficulty is set to veteran, normal, veteran, extreme, lunatic, which at various stages gives enemies a kind of broad sweeping stat buff. So if I set this to lunatic, right, then that attack, instead of doing 11, will do even more damage. Or if I set it back to normal, then that plus 2 will go away. So it'll go back to being 5 plus 4, which is 9. Anyway, tangent aside, the rest of the unit stats can be seen here. Damage, vulnerabilities, and protections. This is another kind of gameplay feature to play around, is damage types, which for your NPCs and your players will usually come from their equipped armor. And so you can see if you look at their character sheets, all of these creatures have a kind of armor, whether that's their natural armor, right? Or like the Fiend Knight wearing an actual suit of armor, which has its own list of vulnerabilities and protections. So what do these things do? Protections are pretty significant. They make a unit pretty resilient against that damage type. But that isn't to say that it's the sort of end-all be-all of things. What it does is, let's say that I'm using Valerie over here, right? I'm gonna drag her over. And she's gonna attack this Fiend Knight with her sword weapon. Swords deal slashing damage for the most part, unless they say otherwise. And since he's protected against slashing weapons, the stance damage that, let's say, this longsword would deal, right? Supposed to deal 1 damage, is significantly reduced. And in this case, it'll be halved, so it only deals like a half of one of these stance bars if she were to attack him. And furthermore, since he's protected from slashing damage, his defense will be significantly improved as well. This 8 will turn into 16. This 2 will turn into 4 against slashing. So effectively, Valerie will just be totally ineffective in dealing with this Fiend Knight with her sword. But since we see that this unit is vulnerable to these magic types, Ice, Lightning, and Arcane, we do have Gunter over here, who, as we see, has a Frostbolt, right? Which deals 2 break damage, and if the Fiend Knight is vulnerable to it, it won't take extra damage, but it will take extra break, or double in this case. So Gunter, casting a Frostbolt on the Fiend Knight, will deal 4 points of these yellow bars down here, because 2 is the normal amount, and it's doubled because he's vulnerable to ice. Every unit in the game, every token is going to have a unique bar down here that the GM can access by just right-clicking them, or that the players can access by clicking on the unit. And what this will tell you is actually a lot of information down here that you can access. So by right-clicking the knight, right, you can see the weapon very quickly. You'll get a tooltip that shows the break damage, the attack, the damage type, and any kind of abilities it has. In which case, the Fiend's Crusher, it has Polearm Breaker, which means it will have advantage against polearm weapons, and polearm weapons will have disadvantage against him. It cannot make extra attacks, which means he'll never double anything, even if he could. He has a weapon art, Night Kneeler, which gains 2 accuracy and gets effective against cavalry units. So we don't have any cavalry units, right, on our side here, besides Celestine. So if we don't want this Fiend Knight to ever be capable of attacks against Celestine. Not only is she a squishy mage, but also that that weapon art will just obliterate her in 1 hit. So that would be a bad idea. If Vermilla were to land on her Pegasus, she would also be a cavalry unit that theoretically the Fiend could attack. That is also something about flying units to talk about in our system here. So, unlike Fire Emblem, you can actually dismount and also dismounting her and remounting her will put her on her Pegasus again. But in addition to that, she can also land or ascend, which can't be done right now because there's no active combat, but I will show that during the demonstration. If she were to land, right, then she'll lose this flying icon status, which sets her as a flyer, and she will effectively be like a cavalry unit, a horsed unit on the ground. Um, and that makes it so that she's no longer vulnerable to arrow fire, as flyers are. But she will be like considered cavalry for the purposes of an ability like Night Kneeler. Right. And the other big difference about flyers is that flyers um, can't be attacked in melee because they're flying. So a melee unit like this skeleton right here with the pole arm can't actually reach her. Only all these other flying units or units with range abilities can actually attack her. However, melee units can counterattack her. So if she were to fly in, right, and attack this Fiend Knight with a melee attack, then the Fiend Knight will be able to counter with his own melee weapon. He won't be able to counter with an ability, though, because weapon arts like Night Kneeler can only be activated like as your turn action. They cannot be used as part of their unit's counterattacks. So there's that. And just to check on some other things, right? Here you can see the unit's items. So it has a heavy shield and it has a chest key. And if we actually look at the character sheet, right, the green, just like in Fire Emblem, signals that when this unit dies, this key will actually drop. And that key presumably opens this chest up here. Looking at the passives can also be done through this HUD. So just by hovering over it, right, we'll see he has a shield wall, he has shield mastery. Shield mastery is just a passive that lets him equip this heavy shield without any penalties. And shield wall, as we can see, while equipped with a shield, friendly units adjacent to this unit gain 3 defense and 3 resistance. Yeah, so if we move the Fiend Knight over to the square, right, these skeletons' defense and resistance are increased by 3 points. Right, away and back. And that's his, aura shield wall ability. And you can actually go into the combat tracker and look for units with auras, right? So this Revenant right here, that blue icon to the right, shows that it's emitting an aura. So if we wanted to check what that did, we'll just click on that unit. We'll look over here at the Mind Suppression field, that passive, and we'll see that all hostile units within 4 squares of the unit have -4 wit, charm, and resistance. So, big disaster to keep this guy around, right? Because if he's reducing our team's resistance, then these other flying eyeball monsters with magic attacks, they will be all the more dangerous to our party if we keep this guy around. Yeah. So that's pretty much that in terms of checking enemies and their abilities. This guy over here, you can see by looking over him, Corpse Explosion. When this unit is slain, it bubbles up and explodes, dealing 48 decay damage to all units adjacent to it. So that's another thing to take note of, right? After reading that creature, I know I don't want to have anyone next to him when he dies. Anyone on my side, at least. Right. Then let's talk a bit about then our own units, right? So Hugo and Emmeline here, these guys are the Lord characters of the party, which means they're particularly strong, and they have a lot of different abilities, right? You can see here, I won't go over all of these, but these are his passive abilities. He has an armor breaker, a throwing axe. He can heal using his staff. He can cast this command spell, which is a very powerful spell, with a variety of functions. I'll show this off when we actually get to the gameplay demo. Lay on hands, you can do a big heal once per map. This rally ability is actually an ability that all units have, where similar to Fire Emblem, right? Rally is a action to increase the stats of other units. In this case, in our system, it's integrated into the supports system of the game, which I won't go too much into. We won't be using this for the gameplay demo, so I won't talk about that too much. But suffice to say that for other characters who do have support ranks with Hugo, then you will be able to rally them to increase their stats in some way. And finally, he has that Savage Strike ability that we saw from the fighter. Emmeline, very powerful spellcaster. She has a lot of varieties of functions. She can make attacks using these staffs. She can heal with the Staff of Healing. And she has a lot of innate utility abilities as well. Most significantly here, right, Mobina's Embrace. She can use this to actually convert any of these undead monsters to our side. So very effective. On this side of things, we have very simple units, much more simpler than those two up there, right? These guys are all retainers, so not lord units. Effie, we can see she is a fighter, right? So she has a bow, she has her fists, she has an axe, she has a weapon art, she has a taunt, she can shove, and she can rally. These indicators over here, it actually might be worth speaking about. The green flag signals that this stat is currently being boosted in some way due to her positioning on the field. And if we click at that, we can actually see what it is. So all three of them are coming from the same ability, Lover Knight, which is a passive ability granted by Gunter, right? And if we click on Lover Knight, we'll see what it does. Gunter has this as an aura, grants Effie +4 resistance and agility as long as she's within 2 range. So very useful to keep her within range of her lover, Gunter. Gunter similarly, right, has that coming from Effie as well. So Effie is giving him 4 defense and 2 wit as long as he's within range of her. And that these indicators actually also apply if you move her to, let's say, this sludge pool, right? Now she's modified by these different things. So the terrain, actively reducing her defense by 4, reducing her evasion by 4, and her crits being reduced because she's within range of what we saw earlier, this guy's Mind Suppression field, which also brings her resistance down to -2. So very disastrous for her to be on that square, left as she is. Right. All these other units, Celestine, our healer, she can use her Shining Staff to attack, she can empower, she can heal, and she can summon an angel. I will not be using this because this is a very, very powerful one-use ability that the character has that if I were to use it would cheapen the entire map. But yeah. Vermilla, very, very powerful unit, probably the strongest of all the ones of our retainers here. Flying unit, her strength comes largely from her unique sword. So Zephyrus, this is a character-specific weapon. Only Vermilla can use it. And it is capable of doing ranged attacks as well as melee, in which case it does wind damage when attacking at range. We'll see that in action as well. She has one weapon art, Wind Fury. It's a one-time cast per map, right? As we can see here, uses 1 out of 1. So even if I could spend the cost to activate it, I can only do it once per map. And what this does is it grants an extra attack, which means that if she can't double, then she will double. And if she's doubling, then she's tripling. That's what that means. Effectiveness against flying units, and if the enemy is slain as a result of the attack, Vermilla gets another turn. Basically a Gale Force. So we will be making use of that when the time comes. Yeah, and the other characters are pretty self-explanatory. Valerie is a swordsman, and Varl is a ranger. So The one thing to note about Valerie that will come into play as well is that she can she has a unique feature called Paint in Red. Guarantee critical weapons when attacking a stance broken enemy. So that will definitely come into play when we're dealing with, you know, our big boss enemies later down the map. Alright, so now we're going to just be playing out this map, with me providing some commentary as I go. Now that's all been sort of set up. What's left is to show it off. I'm going to turn on the enemy AI so that the computer operates the enemies instead of myself. Now, normally, of course, you know, one of your players will be the ones driving the PCs. Although I suppose if you wanted to, you could just play against yourself as well. In this kind of thing. Alright, so I kind of have a game plan already, since I did play through this map before. This is, in my opinion, you know, not the easiest map in the world, but hopefully, you know, me being the game designer, I have some knowledge of things, so hoping this goes pretty well. First things first, I am going to use Malvina's Embrace. This ability is going to let me control an enemy unit. Oh, cool. So I can actually do this at range. So, potentially I can just control this Fiend Knight right here. Having be a very powerful agent of mine. Or alternatively, if I rather not, could also try to grab this Revenant, because then that aura of his might be something I control instead. 83% chance. Alright. I think let's just try to take less risk. And let's try to control this skeleton down here. Oh, wait. Let's do it from there so that he can't reach us. Great. Now he's our ally, but he can't act until our next turn. So we'll just leave it there for now. And for Hugo, we will... Yeah, we're gonna have to block this square so that this guy can't reach our caster, Emily. And we can also try to taunt him to ensure that he attacks our tank instead. Nice, no problem. Let's move on to the rest of our group down here. Alright, so I'm thinking this guy's gotta go, because he has that aura that reduces the party's resistance. And we're really gonna need that if we want to survive these eyeballs down here. Alternatively, if we just kill these eyeballs too, there will be less of an issue. So maybe we just do that. So I think
Good. On to our next objective.
Renilla can reach this one. Yeah. Even if it seems like the Dullahan can reach her from there, he's been set to passive. Which means that the boss, like in Fire Emblem, won't move until he's actually attacked. So I think I will... Yes, let's go ahead and this guy.
I've got your back, bud.
And these guys are actually pretty low level enough that our party doesn't even get experience for it. Which, no problem. No problem. As long as they're out of our hair. Right.
We fighting?
FD
Take
goes
me.
in. And 1.5 break each. With the shield gauntlets, higher percent chance to hit. Yeah, let's do this one. Hopefully she lands them both. Kills this thing. Wonderful.
I will choose my own path.
Alright. We are going to need... Yeah, we don't want him to be in range of this guy over here.
Here we go.
Another journey begins.
But we also want this archer to die. Alright, so here's what we can do.
This will strengthen our position.
This guy is... yeah.
I'm up for it.
We can cast Empower on our mage. Right. Just to make sure. And that'll give him more damage on his
Move
attacks.
carefully.
We can use that to potentially... right, yes, kill this skeleton.
It's too late to repent.
Nice. Alright, now, in order to protect Gunter, so that he's not going to be targeted by this big scary guy over here,
Another journey begins.
we can use Valerie, and she'll probably be tanking both this hit and this hit. But it'll be fine, because, yeah, her sword has Heavy Breaker, as we see down there, which will give her advantage in dodging this guy. So, more than likely he won't hit. So we'll swap with him. Yep, and we're going to end her
Storms on
turn
the
with
horizon.
the sword equipped. Theoretically could throw this bomb that she has, but yeah, no good targets for that right now. So we'll just end her turn. And we'll see what the AI does. Nice dodge. Very good. Ooh,
I won't budge. Even one step.
that was a very useful hit. Great dodge. Avoiding that poison. So these skeletons over there and these gargoyles, I've set their AI to be in pursuit, so they will be moving across the map to get to us, while all these other units are going to be staying static. Nice dodge. Yeah, and I think, yeah, our side here is going to be fine this turn. No big deal. We can heal that off. Better him than us. And back to us. Okay. So we're just going to move him out of the way.
The stage is set.
And yeah, let's control this Revenant. Great. Get that guy out of our hair. And let's see about finishing off this Fiend Knight with our Armor Breaker. Great. Now the strategy for these two is we're going to have to swing them down here. Because, let me tell you, without these two in the thick of things around here, these guys are not going to have much hope. Especially once those other reinforcements start coming. So let's go ahead and pin out their numbers here. This is a great hit. Done. Let's see, who do we want to kill at the Fiend Knight? Probably someone who could get the XP. So yeah, Varl's close to leveling up. Let's let him do it. Let's use our crossbow. Alright, let's see our first level up. That's fucking beautiful.
Wonder there's a bounty on my head.
Awesome. 3
Here we go.
extremely relevant stats. And then this stuff. This should be fairly easy to get rid of. So he's vulnerable to light. Slashing. We don't want to get in close to him. And this little zombie guy.
Don't hesitate.
Should be fairly easy to take
Another
care of.
journey begins.
Ready.
That will kill it. But the attack back will not be pretty.
Don't hesitate.
We'll stick together.
Yep. Alright. I think what we'll do is... Power on Valerie.
Another journey begins.
Valerie can blow this guy up. Issue is we can't have her taking any hits from these two. Okay.
Okay, let's get ready.
That's not a great spot to be either. If we kill the two of these, then we could take a hit from this guy, leave him alone. Because he's attacked at 13. 13. Yeah, yeah. And his attack won't double because his speed is only 3. Okay.
Okay, let's get ready.
So, yeah, we just have to focus on killing these two.
Storms on the horizon.
Move carefully.
Ready.
Which will look like this.
The time is now.
Storms on the horizon.
Well, he was fun while he lasted. Yep. Alright. Let's see about recovering on our sides here. And here, we gotta get rid of these guys here.
Let's take them together.
So let's... Nice crit.
Victory favors me.
And I'm still not sure if it's safe for Hugo to cross into here, because these two revenants with their magic damage won't be pleasant to deal with. So let's see about doing a weapon on our throw, and if we kill, we kill. Darn. And now we're poisoned. Alright, well. It was a 65% chance. And this guy will tank the next couple hits, so we'll leave it at that. What we need to do is we need to get,
Let the wind
yeah, we need to get our flyer up as fast as possible so that she can start clearing away those revenants. And she can tank a hit from this. Won't be a big deal. Yeah, and in case she has vulnerabilities, so we need to go about healing our units on this
I've got your
side.
back, bud.
We need to hit this guy hard with a curve shot so we don't get a counter. That's that.
We'll stick together.
Another journey begins.
Let's see. Let's put those lines away. I need to make it so that these lines are displayed above this animation tile here, because that's a little bit jarring. But anyway, let's see. Polearm. That's not great for her to be in that spot. So let's say
Ready.
need to heal her up,
We'll
get
stick
her in
together.
position to block
Another
that. So
journey
she needs to go
begins.
here. And 13, 9. Yeah, she can take a hit from that zombie, so she will go right there. And anticipate that hit.
I'm ready.
Celestine has to heal. Nice. Wow.
How inspiring.
Very inspiring indeed.
Actions always speak louder than words.
Now we're gonna need her to come here to tank a hit from this skeleton. Yes. This looks good.
The time is now.
And this white. Yeah. You will have to give yourself to the cause, my friend. Oh, I hope this misses. Oh, yes. And you're dead? Sweet. Boo. Would have been nice if those hit. Nice
This
crit.
is where it ends.
No big deal. Those things are very magic resistant, as you can see. That's why we need
Let
to
the
get
wind lead.
vanilla in. This won't be a great hit. Because at 2 range, the sword has to deal wind damage. And as you just saw, wind damage is not great against that guy. Let's see if we
I've got your
can't
back.
just axe throw him. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. We just have to use up more of our durability. And I'll do a 16, 6 break. Emily could kill it after that, so we really need this to hit. Great.
A smooth journey.
And the only reason Hugo could hit him at quote-unquote 1 range there is because that was a throwing axe. If he had used the armor breaker, since that is an elevated level 5 platform, Hugo would not be able to reach this thing. Alright, moving on. Emmeline will
Smooth journey.
finish this thing off. Yeah.
You will yield.
Most unnecessary crit in the world. So I'm sure if you have been noticing, there actually are different
Ready for anything.
critical hit as well as attack animations in the game, which is quite nice. Yeah, I'll just get rid of this guy right here. And now this road is cleared, safe for Hugo to come through. Because in all his bulky armor, these guys will pose little threat, as long as these guys aren't there to threaten him with magic.
Come on, face me head
So
on.
wrapping up things down here, let's take a look at this situation. So I think what we do,
Here we go.
we cast, yeah, I can take a hit with that guy. 11 damage. I'm fine. I will empower her. And yeah, since this is the 4th round, I have to be wary that soon there will be spawns coming in from there and there. So we have to get a move on here. I think I'll let's see. Get some guaranteed hits, or just... Yeah, I'll stand in the sludge and True Strike. So now she's hella buffed.
Come on,
And
face me head on.
she can pulverize this thing. Amazing. I'm gonna move Valerie
Stay
up
with you
here.
a little longer.
Right, so that she can benefit from Celestine's Lady of Mercy ability, which, as you can see here, right, units adjacent to her will heal at the start of the turn. So we want that. And Varl will equip this sword and engage this guy to come over. Nice. Sweet. Good dodge. Alright. Now we can bring Hugo over.
I'll lend a hand.
Give him the old armor breaker and pop him over. Yeah, we will meet him down here to help take care of this giant fellow right there. And now these gargoyles are fast approaching. So we are going to have to call back
Took a win to lead.
Vermilla. Like so. Yeah, she needs to be near so that she can use her Wind Fury to help us destroy those guys, because those guys are pretty tough. Let's use her Vulnerary. And
A smooth journey.
Emmeline. She might be able to cast an illusion to draw this guy away from attacking either of these two. But we might want to save that for later as well. So let's just have her come here, equip the Gale Staff, and cast Mage Armor. And that'll give her a shield of HP to absorb hits. Okay, back to here.
I've got your back, bud.
We're gonna need Varl to... start dealing with these eyeballs. We're
We'll
gonna
stick
need
together.
some healing over here.
You know, actions always speak louder than words.
Let's see what happens here. Oh, a lot of stuff. Alright. we need these guys to come in on her. Get rid of him. And let's see. So he can reach because he has a bow.
I weep for the departed.
I can take a hit from the bow. Would not be great if I missed. Let's do it. God damn it. Dodge. God damn it. Alright, well at least she got it on the second hit. Okay, that's that. And let's see. Oh. Oh, that's not great.
Don't hesitate.
I think she can take one hit. Yeah, it's probably fine.
Don't hesitate.
Let's just,
This will strengthen our position.
yeah. Let's cover her right there. Oh, sweet. Can she triple? She cannot. Yeah, near those gargoyles. That was a really lucky dodge earlier against the spear guy. Otherwise she'd be dead. I deeply miscalculated the positioning there. Sorry girl. Alright,
Ready for anything.
well luck pulled us through. And okay, now Vermilla has to take care of these two. Wind Fury. All this fun stuff. Oh yeah, here we go. That's Wind Fury. So 3 hits. Disadvantage because he's using a partisan, which is advantaged against swords. So unless I miss 2 times, this should go pretty well. And Wind Fury will Gale Force her, letting her go again, to kill the other one, hopefully. Now the question would be... no.
Good. On to our next
I was thinking
objective.
whether or not it was possible to buff her to get rid of the disadvantage with Gunther's True Strike spell, but no, she's out of reach. So here... oh, yep, like this. And we just need decent luck. Alright, perfect. And... right, there we go. Wind Fury procs.
Good.
She gets
On
to
to
go
our
again.
next objective.
And you'll see here, right, Wind Fury, since that's a once per map ability, it's gone. And now she can act again. Potentially this may be needed, but
They're
also
mine.
potentially not. With a longbow? Yeah, there we go. Alright. Not even sure I needed Wind Fury there, but, you know.
Onwards.
Better
We have
safe
work
than
to do.
sorry. Yeah, this will let us come down here and get rid of this guy. forgot he explodes. That was dumb of me. Alright,
I'll lend a hand.
no biggie. Let's keep going. Not the throwing axe. Oh, I didn't know he doubled. That's not good.
A smooth journey.
Another journey begins.
That doesn't kill.
The time is now.
This will break it. So we don't have to worry about it for a turn.
Not so sure about this. This ends now.
Lovely.
I weep for the departed.
Valerie can grab this key.
We fighting? Take me.
Alright, she can come down and draw some of this fire. Not sure if she actually should. Let's see. 16 attack, 5 speed. 14 attack at 12 speed. And we're at 13 defense. So, yeah. We should actually be totally fine there. Let's do it.
Come on, face me head on.
Taunt? Let's taunt this one. Too bad.
A new era.
Emmeline? Well, yeah. Not safer to go down there. Still just yet. So, let's, heal herself?
They're mine.
How much do we have? Okay, 13 charges on the crossbow left. That's more than enough for later. Alright. Well, we gotta start to get rid of these things so that
Actions always speak louder than
Emily
words.
can come down.
Good. On to our next objective.
Yes, that looks good.
I'll lend a hand.
4 break, 18 damage. That looks good. Do we need? Yeah, we do need it. Well, you gotta be kidding me.
Another journey
Not
begins.
so sure about this.
Move carefully.
Storms on the horizon.
shit. 16 attack. Alright, she'll live even if it hits.
Not so sure about this.
And let's see here. 16 attack, 10 resistance. She'll survive a hit. Yeah. I think so. Let's have her heal herself.
We fighting? Take me.
Yeah, that looks good. Please hit this. Okay,
I
great.
won't budge. Even one step.
Alright, honestly, I think Emily can come down even with this guy here. 5 speed. The other weapon, I think, it doesn't change anything. Alright, agility, yeah. So she won't double Emmeline. And Emmeline is not vulnerable to piercing. Alright, yeah, she can come down. She will not be harmed. I will give her the fire staff. Bring her down, and that's it. Great. Oh. I think that's safe. Unless this guy... Okay. Getting Hugo instead. Alright, alright. Alright, she's 1 HP from the decay damage. Okay. We need to start fixing this. So Hugo can come down, and... Oh, he is stance broken as well. Okay. She needs to come heal him. Alright. Well, even with 1 stance point back, he can act again. He can lay on hands. Heal her.
Another blank canvas.
Yeah, we'll have Valerie take care of that guy over there.
Wind lead.
You will come here. Yeah, this is safe. Finish this guy off. And we need to... Are we on track? About 7 turns left to kill the Dalahan. Which should be more than enough, honestly.
You know, actions always speak louder than words.
As long as we move. I think the shield fists will do. Alrighty, yeah. Back on track,
Another
Valerie.
blank canvas.
We need to get rid of this guy right here and have her open the chest. Actually, maybe if we use someone else to do it, so that she can get on that chest now. Yeah.
I weep for the departed.
Oh, right, she doesn't reach it because of that slime pool in the way. Oh well. Yeah, then we just get her close. Varl's on eyeball duty.
I weep for the departed.
And yeah, we'll just try to get her in position. think there was actually a bug there. She shouldn't have been able to make that extra movement. Thing to note.
This will strengthen our position.
Okay, the next aggro move has to be to come down here. I think these guys are going to be moving over too. Alright,
I weep for
let's
the
get this
departed.
chest. Alright,
Another journey
let's get this
begins.
chest. And we'll grab that sunray staff. Oh, I'm stacked on equipment. Alright, well, we'll drop this rapier instead.
Let's take them together.
And we can dance Valerie using Emmeline so that she can keep moving.
I weep for the departed.
Nice.
They won't expect this.
Here we go.
Let's heal up some stance points.
I've got your back, bud.
Yeah, we got 6 turns left to come down into here and deal with this big guy. So we need to start
You know,
moving fast.
Actions always speak louder than words.
This will pull him and this thing. Not great. We really need a way to pull them wisely here. Because this will demolish whatever it hits. The big dude.
The time is now.
Let's get things into position.
Okay, let's get ready.
Let's take a look. 21 damage on his attack. The Strogger. That's a pretty heavy hit. Especially if I stand into sludge. When they do it, this guy, 28 attack. But I think his attack can't do extra. Yeah. So he won't be doubling even if it breaks someone. But this guy will. At the same time, this square is blocked. So whichever one comes to attack, the other one can't attack. So I think actually this
Okay,
is a
let's
safe
get
call.
ready.
Yeah, let's just do it. And why not? Let's taunt them over. Taunting has just not been effective. Or at least the rolls haven't been great. Alright, well, honestly, I'll take that. The defensive
Good.
stats are
On to our
valuable
next
to level up in this game, because they're pretty rare. We'll have her heal a drinkable Mary. Alright, next turn. Yeah. Not pretty, but he's in range. And so is that guy. great. Alright.
A new era awaits.
Emily can get all the way down there. What do we want to use that for? She has a lot of utilities, so it's wise to make good on that. What we can do is try to kill him, then have him taunted by Hugo. Right, because Hugo can take a hit from the big one. And that will clear a path to the Dalahan with the last 5 turns we have left. So that means kill the Draugr first. Vulnerable to light and to bludgeoning.
I'll help.
That sounds like a job for Hugo. We need Hugo to taunt. So light.
I'm ready.
Right, that looks like a good hit. Almost out of uses of the Shining Staff, which we also might need against the big one as well. But yeah, let's not think too hard about this now. Cool.
Storms on the horizon.
Valerie.
Another
Maybe
blank canvas.
now is the time to throw that bomb. Success rate, coin flip. Yeah, sure. Let's see it. Might as well show it off. Aw, man. Alright, the big one took some damage.
Smooth journey.
It's
Let the
okay.
wind lead.
We can have... Okay, no, that doesn't break him. Zephyrus it is. Right there. Okay, great. Hugo can come in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, swap places with her, and taunt the big fellow. And we will need that to succeed.
Come on, face me head on.
Yeah, you'll just go here and end your turn.
I'll help.
Hugo comes in, taunts. 98%. Yep, brilliant. Very, very good. Cool. The next turn we'll focus our efforts to kill them. Emmeline
Quickly and swiftly.
can come down. Does Bane reach? No, it doesn't. Alright, we'll do that next turn anyway. She doesn't really have anything to do right now, actually. Yeah. Alright, no big deal. No big deal.
This will strengthen our position.
And yeah, you can start chipping away at his giant HP bar from here. And Varl's left. Alright. Varl can curve shot and also reach from there. Fantastic. Next turn he should be dead. Five rounds remaining. Alright, we should have the time. So let's get to this. How do I want to get to this? any unit that comes on this side has to tank these kinds of hits, which are pretty scary, because this thing can poise break someone, or stance break someone, I mean, and then these guys will be doing a lot more damage to them.
Onwards. We have work to do.
And if I move Miller here to attack, I only have 10 uses left of her weapon, and that pulls in these guys as well, so that's not ideal.
Don't hesitate.
Don't hesitate, Gunther says. Alright. I'm trying not to.
You know, actions always speak louder than words.
This goop is not fun, to be getting around here. I think, though,
Quickly and swiftly.
what we can do...
The time is now.
let's first get rid of his first health bar. Yeah, let's not overthink it. Alright, so he's broken. So the question is, do we want to all kill him now? Or
I'll lend a hand.
let him waste his next turn
I
getting
weep
his
for the
stance back?
departed.
You know, actions always speak louder than words.
I've got this.
So we don't have a lot of great ways to get around this goop. Varl can get around this goop because Into the Wilds, he has this ranger ability, lets him ignore difficult terrain to some degree. So he might be useful. Yeah, need line of sight to attack through there. The longbow's out of... oh yeah, the longbow's almost done. Okay, I think I know what to do.
Quickly and swiftly.
We're going to come here. We're going to heal Hugo.
What's the plan?
Have Hugo cast command on these guys. I don't know what's up with this broken art, but yeah. I think Halt should... yeah, effective units can restrain for one turn, cannot move, and lose their agility bonus. So actually that is, I think, the play. Because if we stun them, then we can move through this goop without fearing too much reprisal. Great. So these guys, right, yep, you can see their movement has been halted. This guy is still pretty far away, so as long as I don't go into this tile, yeah, I won't be pulling anything.
You know, actions always speak louder than
We
words.
can come here,
A new era awaits.
or I can actually...
I've got your back, bud.
Yeah, let's start picking away from here.
Another journey begins.
Then we swap.
I weep for the departed.
And we shoot.
Let's take them together.
Emily can come in here and get Varl's turn back.
They're mine.
Carl can come in. Again, this Stalahan won't be pulled until he actually takes damage. He can get rid of this eyeball with his last few longbow shots.
Ready.
She can come down here. Yeah, and yeah, that's a good position to be in for next turn, so they will wait.
Good. On to our next objective.
Okay, yeah, these eyeballs are gonna just play catch up with us, so that's fine. Vermilla, what do you want her to do? Revenants. Ugh. So we don't want to pull these guys either yet. And we don't want to attack this thing, because that'll... Actually, attacking it right now will trigger its second health bar, and it'll get its poise back. So we need to let it cool off there. I guess this would be the attack. The only reason I wouldn't do this is because in a kind of real campaign, I would hesitate to spend more charges of her fancy sword. But since this is just a demo, I'll do it. There we go. Yep. So a bunch of us took damage from that sludge, but it's fine. And luckily, Gunter would have been stance broken, but thanks to Celestine's aura ability, he automatically gets 1 point of stance back, which means he can still act this turn, which is great, because we need him to trigger this guy's... Well, who should trigger his second health bar, actually?
I'll help.
Probably Hugo, actually. Yeah, because he deals the least amount of break damage to him. There's the second health bar, and everybody else will be working together to take this down now.
Let's take them together.
And we can actually start to get a bit out of the sludge. So I think
Here we go.
the best way to do that might be like this. Yes. Emily can come here. Oops. Oh yeah, do not want to climb those roofs, Gabe. Inspire. Let her go again.
Here we go.
Then from there, do 4 more break damage. 5 total left. And then once his poise is broken, Valerie will annihilate him.
This will
So
strengthen
it
our
really
position.
is now just a game about doing that. He can do 5.
got
What can
this.
Varl do? We don't want to do that just yet. Yeah, we don't want to approach that just yet. And we can't go there. Nor can we go there. Alright, No, not great. These 2 can break,
They're mine.
but I kind of want
Ready.
FB to come back here to shoot this one. just in case these two pose a threat to Gunter.
I will choose my own path.
So I think the best option now, yeah, it's still these frost bolts on the big guy. Hoping to both hit. Oh, come on, game. Alright, well that presents a bit of a problem.
We fighting?
Okay,
Take me.
not great.
Let the wind lead.
Okay, I mean if Effie can come back here and deal with one of these,
Come on, face me head on.
then we can break from here. Yeah, that looks good. Oh no, because on his counter, she might break. What if she does Savage Strike with the axe? Yes, that looks good. She has to hit though. This can't miss. 85% chance. There we go. That's done. Which
Another
means
blank
Valerie
canvas.
kills it. Yes. I think this... Yeah, either way, doesn't matter. 3 hits, all of them will crit because of her painted red passive, as we saw from before. Someone stance broken, she will always crit on a melee attack.
This is where it ends. Stream forth the gleam of old blades.
Fantastic. And we get a level. Wow, these are some beautiful levels.
Never turn back. The path behind is gone.
I feel like if my players are watching, they would actually get mad because I'm wasting all the good levels on their units on a not real scenario.
They're mine.
Yeah, these are all copies of their characters, not their actual characters, of course. And then, yeah, we can come back here and use this last longbow shot. Well, actually, no. I think I want in position, because Varl is kind of the secret to taking down this guy. He's the key. So maybe I don't do that. And just finish off the Dullahan next turn.
Ready for anything.
I just bring in Vermilla to deal with this guy. Oh, but this, yeah. Yeah, let's just do that. There we go. So now, this guy won't pose a threat. And next turn we will kill this Dullahan.
Earth shatters, heaven trembles.
Good stuff. More spawns, 3 rounds remaining, but we'll be fine. Because I'm pretty sure
I'm on it.
Varl can take it from here. The reason for that is because,
Move carefully.
if we
We'll stick together.
power... Wait, actually, just to make sure.
They're mine.
2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, yeah, Emily can reach.
I'm ready.
Storms on the horizon.
Okay, yeah, that does look good. Alright, so,
Let's keep our guard up.
Empower on Varl.
Ready.
Effie will move down. This doesn't need to be up there anymore. Let's go right there.
Onwards. We have work
I'll
to
do
do.
something pretty weird here, but we'll swap.
Move
Um,
carefully.
And as you can see, because she used swap on a ground unit, Vermilla automatically lands. So she's actually right now landed on the
Let the
ground.
wind lead.
She's not airborne anymore.
I will choose my
um,
own path.
think she can actually use her action to go back up. Yeah, now she's flying again. So bonus action to swap, action to get back in the air. Okay, this, because True Strike, so we want to do that double buff that we saw before on Varl, and that gives Varl enough juice to straight up, yeah, one hit break the Dullahan. And a guaranteed hit. So he stands broken. And now...
Another journey begins.
Yes, that looks good.
Quickly
All we
and
have to
swiftly.
do, come down here, inspire. Fire goes again.
I've got your back, bud.
And more crossbow action. Actually, is there any way we double this guy? Oh, no, we don't, because the, Oh. We do with the sword. I guess the sword is cooler. And he
You're
crits.
fresh out of luck.
Beautiful.
I gotta up my game.
Uh-huh. I guess our level up luck ran out. And that's the map, that's the game. Thank you guys if you have stuck through to watch the whole thing. Hopefully this showed off the promise of the system. And as for my thoughts about how this will release against the public, I am planning to release the raw code base soon, which means that the system by itself, all of its tools, all of its applications, right? The character sheets and the systems can be out there, but the content packs I will have to wait to release because a lot of the sound effects that you guys have been hearing, I'm worried somewhat about copyright, let's say. And also, this is something to note as well that's pretty important, but all the animations that you guys saw, that these actors and these enemies have been using, they're coming from paid premium Foundry modules. They are one-time payments for you to get them. But yeah, I think it would be best for me to work on a free version as well, so you don't have to buy them. But yeah, if those modules are not purchased and installed, then a lot of those animations will just be broken and they won't work, right? Because those files are missing. So with that being said, I will leave a link in the the YouTube description to a Discord server where people who are interested can follow up, keep up with the updates of the development of the system. And yeah, you'll learn more, find out more there. All right, thank you, and take care.